Good morning, mountain lions. Last time that we were reading together, we read through chapter 16, and I asked you when you felt fear, like Roz did when the bears were chasing her. I know when I felt fear, and I still do, kind of embarrassing, but in the dark, I'm really don't want to come downstairs when it's dark in the middle of the night. So I know that I feel fear when it's dark in my house. So I gotta turn all the lights on. All right, today we're gonna read chapter 17, hopefully through 20 or 21, we'll see. And we're gonna talk all about camouflage. Now I know that some of you, when we were doing our insect research, have already kind of touched on this, so you might already know what camouflage is, but I'm just gonna remind you, it's when an animal changes their skin or the way that they look to blend in with their surroundings. So it's really a way that they can survive. All right, with that said, chapter 17, the camouflaged insect. Roz was a mess. She lay under the tree, covered in a heap of broken branches and pine cones and needles. She still hadn't removed the sticky resin from her body. And then there were the bird droppings. She was about to get up and give herself a rigorous cleaning when she noticed a peculiar twig. The twig was moving. It was crawling along one of the broken branches on the ground. With a gentle touch, the robot picked up the twig. "Hello, stick insect. My name is Roz. You are very well camouflaged." The stick insect's body was long and thin. He had the same shape and colors and markings as a real twig. But if you looked closely, you just might see two tiny eyes and two spindly antennae. The insect didn't make a sound, and he sat perfectly still as the robot. The two of them sat still and silently and stared at each other for a while. "Thank you, stick insect," said Roz as she placed him back where she found him. "You have taught me an important lesson. I can see how camouflage helps you survive. Perhaps it could help me survive also." So I wonder how Roz is going to camouflage. Chapter 18, the camouflage robot. As you know, reader, Roz has always liked to keep herself as clean as possible. But her desire to stay alive was stronger than her desire to stay clean. And our robot decided it was time she got dirty. She was going to camouflage herself. She'd gotten the idea from the stick insect, but Roz quickly realized that camouflaging herself as a twig was out of the question. No, the robot would have to blend into the landscape itself. She began by smearing handfuls of thick mud over her entire body. Then she plucked ferns and grasses from the ground and sank their roots into her new muddy coat. She placed colorful flowers around her face to disguise her glowing eyes, and any bare patches were covered with tree leaves and strips of moss. Our robot now looked like a great tuft of plants, walking through the forest. She waited for darkness, and then she patted the center of a clearing, nestling herself between some rocks, and became part of the landscape. A few hours later, the sky was brightening, the fog was lifting, the nighttime animals were slinking home, and the daytime animals were beginning to stir. It was just an ordinary morning on the island. However, there was that new tuft of plants in that forest clearing. Only the bees had noticed the tuft. They buzzed around it, completely unaware that there was a robot hidden beneath. And so Roz sat there, right in the open, yet completely unseen, and observed the wilderness around her. She watched flowers slowly turn toward the sun. She listened to rodents crawl through the weeds. She smelled the moist, piney air. She felt worms wiggle against her muddy sides. A week later, the tuft of plants was gone, but there was a new clump of seaweed on the shore. A week after that, the seaweed was gone, but there was a new bramble on the mountain. Then there was a new log on the riverbank. Then there was a new rock in the forest. So she's changing herself, right? To be the rock, to be the seaweed, to really blend in so that she can notice what's going on without the animals seeing her. Chapter 19, Observations. Clouds scudded through the sky. Spiders spun intricate webs. Berries beckoned to hungry mouths. Foxes stalked hares. Mushrooms rose up from leaf litter. Turtles plopped into ponds. Moss spread across tree roots. Vultures hunched over carcasses. Ocean waves beat against the coastline. Tadpoles became frogs. Caterpillars became butterflies. A camouflaged robot observed it all. This part kind of reads like a poem. Pretty cool. Chapter 20, The Language of the Animals. It started with the birds. They had always been skittish when the robot was near. They would stare and screech and then scatter. But now that Roz was camouflaged, she could secretly observe their normal behavior right up close. Roz noticed chickadees fluttering through the same flowers and singing the same song every morning. She noticed a lark who swooped down to the same rock and sang the same song every afternoon. She noticed the two same magpies singing to each other from across the same meadow every evening. After weeks of robotically studying the birds, Roz knew what each bird would sing and when they would sing, and eventually why they would sing. The robot was beginning to understand the birds. But she was also beginning to understand the porcupines, the salamanders, and the beetles. She discovered that all the different animals shared one common language. They just spoke the language in different ways. You might say each species spoke its own unique accent. When Roz first listened to the chickadees, their songs had sounded like tweet, tweedle, tweet, tweedle. But now when they sang, Roz heard, "Oh, what a lovely day it is. Oh, what a lovely day it is." Deer spoke mostly with their bodies. By simply turning her head, a doe could say to her family, "Let's look for clovers by the stream." Snakes often hissed to themselves, things like, "I know there's a tasty mouse around here somewhere." Bees said very little. They used their wings to buzz a few simple words like nectar and sun and hive. Frogs spent much of their time searching for each other. One would croak, "Where are you? I can't see you." And then another would reply, "I'm over here. Follow my voice." When Roz first stomped across the island, the animals' squawks and growls and chirps had sounded like nothing more than meaningless noise. But she no longer heard animal noises. Now she heard animal words, right? So she's really understanding what's going on with the animals, how they communicate, and she's trying to learn from them because she doesn't know, right? She wasn't born for the wilderness. Today, your reading response is going to be all about animals who camouflage. So maybe you've already been thinking about animals that you know that camouflage. The sheet will look like this. I'll post it soon. And you're going to come up with 4 animals that you know that camouflage to survive. So you can maybe do some research, ask some family members, look in some books, whatever you want to do to find those 4 animals. Looking forward to it. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.